Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, brought to you each week by the National Sports Collectors Convention. Join us every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and get the latest news from the greatest experts in the sports collectibles world. You can watch us on the Great American Collectibles Facebook page, as well as YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And now your hosts, award-winning sports collectibles author Tom Zappola and Boston sports media personality John Mallory.
JM, where are you now? You're in the basement. Where are you?
I'm like you always say, I'm in an undisclosed location.
So what do they do? Like, do they have guards outside the room you're in?
No, why would they have guards?
Well, because you got the ankle bracelet on too, though, right?
No, it's a wrist thing.
Oh, it's a wrist thing, is it? Things are well.
Everything's good, buddy. Just very busy, and I miss being in studio with you.
Well,
but
we
make do. We make do.
And you do realize that I probably now won't be in the studio with you until middle of April, end of April.
No, I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah, because you're going to be in the studio with her, with Chrissy, but I'm going to be in Florida. So
I know.
Right?
I know.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zapp, my good friend John Mallory, JM, affectionately known as. We've got a great show today, a full house. Look at those faces. Look at those faces on camera.
Look at these guys.
All right, we've got he's now become the king of the auction houses. We're calling him. Brian Dwyerto from REA Auctions. We've got our good friend. We've got Lee Behrens from Sterling Sports Auctions, and I'm pleased to have a special guest here. Folks, this is Jeff Gross. Now, for those of you that don't know Jeff Gross, Jeff owns Jeff Gross Baseball Cards. Cards or just baseball?
Jeff Gross Vintage Baseball. Very close.
Okay, I was close.
Very close.
So, Jeff is the gentleman. Everybody's been reading about the Morehouse Bakery Babe Ruth card that went for a measly $812,000.
Yeah, I got outbid by $811,000, but yep,
$812,000, as well as the Joe Jackson, the Joe Jackson card, which was a little cheap $87,000.
That's it. Yep.
Right.
Just, rounding error.
Right. So
Jim Thorpe.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Jeff is a gentleman that brokered the whole thing all over the newspapers. Brian is the guy that auctioned it off, and there's more coming, I understand.
Yeah, there is.
But before we get to Brian and Jeff, we're going to talk to our good friend Lee Behrens from Sterling Sports Auctions. Welcome, Lee.
Oh, thank you for having me on again.
You got an auction that's right now. It's already started, right?
Started last Thursday, and it runs for 2 weeks and ends on the 27th of December.
Now, I got to tell you something. You know, you've done a lot of shows with us, and you've had a lot of auctions. I think this is for items. These are the best items you've ever had.
I agree 100%, Zap. Some unbelievable stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I really, you've got some really cool stuff here. Starting with that green cob. What is it? What's the grade on that? I don't remember.
4. It's a very solid 4, nicely centered.
Nice.
Registry's great. I mean, it's whoever wins it's going to be really happy with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great card. I owned one once until I sold it, which was a mistake, but that's okay.
You can fix that mistake.
I know.
Yeah, just buy this one, Zap.
You also have you've got a 41 DiMaggio play ball also, right?
Yes, I do. There he is.
Yeah.
Nice grade, recent grade, last few years. So once again, it's I believe it's crease free from what I can tell through the case. It just got the wear to make it a 3.
Why don't you run some of the other items, some that you want to highlight for the auction, because you get quite a few that are pretty cool.
34 Dizzy Dean, PSA 5.5.
Look at Dwyer. Dwyer's got his eyes on these things.
I'm plotting. I'm going to be bidding.
Yes, he's plotting.
No, I had no idea coming on your show was going to cost me so much money.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Good standard stuff, which amazingly Sterling hadn't had many Tom Seaver rookies in its lifetime since I had it anyways. But that's a nice 4. M116 Cy Young.
Yeah, that's a very cool card.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very cool card. I think that series, and Brian, you can chirp in here. That M116 has been a kind of a solid series over the last year and a half, right? Is it because of the Wagners, the two Wagners?
Yeah, I mean, M116 for a long time was one of the most underappreciated, undervalued sets in the hobby. And then, like you said, the Wagners took off and that drew a lot of attention to it. So I've always loved that set. I mean, it's got a tremendous amount of Hall of Famers. It's got really nice,
beautiful colors.
Right. So yeah, it's great. And I'm happy to see it getting some attention.
Yeah. Hey, Zap, can I go back to the Dizzy Dean?
Sure.
And I want to get, Jeff and Brian, feel free to chime in on it.
Sure.
But that, I know being on the show with you, Zap, we haven't talked a lot about like Dizzy Dean items. Obviously one of the great characters of the game, but where is Dizzy Dean in the hobby? Are there a lot of his cards out there? Does he draw any interest? And Lee, you can start, and Brian, you can chime in.
Well, I was kind of amazed at collecting that the 33 Gaudi, I believe, is considered his rookie card, which, was part of that set, so you kind of thought it was all there. But, I mean, personally, myself, too, I always thought it was a great personality and regret not having a Dizzy Dean rookie in my collection. But Brian might elaborate if there's anything in 32 or earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think he's got a Metropolitan Studios card, but Gaudi is certainly one of the first mainstream ones. Where is Dizzy Dean in the hobby? I don't think a lot of people realize how good he was, and the Gas House Gang, how significant they were. There's definitely some tiers within the Hall of Famers, and Dean is not at the top tier, but he's a darn good pitcher.
He seems to fall into the same category as like Kyle Hubble. Like that. Those players that you're right. They're kind of second tier Hall of Famers. They're all great players, and even into the '60s, you're talking about the Al Kalines of the world, and and those guys.
And sometimes those guys that have such big personalities, they're known for their personality and their humor. He was sort of the lead dog there with the Gas House Gang. It overshadows their numbers. Right. He was a really good pitcher too.
Hey Lee, you have a 57 Banks PSA 8?
Yep. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but yes.
Beautiful card, man.
Yeah, solid one. This is kind of my favorite item in the auction. It's a 6 Series 1970 unopened cello pack.
Really?
Wow.
It's kind of my first memories of collecting are 1970. It was when I bought my first cards, and I always remember a cello pack was 25 cents.
Yeah.
Pack was 10 cents. And so to come up with a quarter when you're 6 years old is really tough. So if we could ever get a cello pack, and that was really cool.
Hey, Leah, are these cards, you have tons of great cards in this auction. Are they coming from multiple sources or one source? Well, how'd that work out?
Yeah, I always have multiple sources of stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's regular consigners. Sometimes it's just consigners, out of the blue through advertising. You just kind of get them here and there, and you get the surprise ones that drop in. And
all right, listen, before I let you go, man, you got a Matty T206. Tell me about that card.
It's white cap, which is a little bit tougher. That's solid. T206s are always solid. Within the auction, always draws interest no matter what it is.
Great card.
At the front page of it, I was really happy with what came in through that.
Yeah, your landing page is pretty impressive. I got to be honest with you. I didn't do a deep dive into the back end of it, but the first lots are really impressive. So
I was kind of surprised that there's a Ty Cobb photo in there. I can't remember what type it is, but it's him playing golf. He's sitting up.
I saw that. All right, your website address.
SterlingSportsAuctions.com.
And when does the auction end?
Auction closes on Friday, December 27th. Initial bid must be in by 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The whole auction is open for bidding after that time if you have one bid in, and then the 15-minute rule applies. Hopefully we get all you in to bid. And Jeff, I expect a few out of you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was going to say, can I take a break right now, or do you want me to wait till after the show?
Hey, before we let you go, I didn't realize, I did know, but then I had forgotten that there's a little history with Mr. Dwyer and Mr. Behrens. Can we discuss that or not? Is it okay to mention it?
You just did.
Sure. Yeah.
So Brian, you owned Sterling Sports at one time, and you sold it to Lee, correct?
Yeah, I started Sterling Sports Auctions 14 and a half years ago now, and sold it to Lee Behrens about, 12 years ago, Lee?
Yeah, 12 and a half.
All right, so where did the name Sterling come from?
I just wanted a name that conveyed my reputation was sterling at the time and still is. So that's where it came from.
I'm glad you finished that and didn't just say at the time.
At the time.
All right, Lee, listen, we don't talk to you. Have a great holiday, great Christmas, and good luck with the auction.
Hey, thank you, guys, and happy holidays to everybody there.
Take care.
Thanks, Lee.
Lee
luck,
Behrens
Lee.
from Sterling Sports Auctions. Okay, Mr. Gross.
Yes, sir.
You've had quite a run the last month or so.
Still funny that I'm sitting here, but yeah, it has been.
It was funny.
6 months. Brian did a good job keeping the story embargoed.
Well, there's a backstory here.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the backstory. So, you and I spoke about this.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, I know that he approached two people, basically. He had finalized two people. One was Mr. Joseph Tomasulo from Golden Auctions. And then from Joe, he went to Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions. And Joe still wants to shoot himself that he did not get the the consignment.
And Joe and I have still become friends in
That's
spite
right,
of
and
that,
you're still
which
friends.
says a
But
lot about Joe.
And Joe's first words to me were, "Tom, I need a favor." And I said, "What?" He says, "Would you mind putting a hit on Jeff Gross?"
Do you mean promoting me?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Is that why I'm here right now?
Exactly. But anyways, no.
Brian, send for help, please.
Blink twice if you need help, Jeff.
Don't take the jump rope.
Exactly. So anyway, a great story. Why don't you walk us through, what happened, how it happened, and then your relationship with Brian in the auction?
Sure. So, the first thing to do to find $1 million collection, of course, is to have a yard sale. So if ever we want to do this again, I just told my wife we just the yard sale. So we were selling my wife's childhood home, and for your viewers,
This is in Danvers.
In Danvers, yeah, in Danvers. And so selling nothing, just old furniture and so on. And then this gentleman comes by on a bicycle, just being friendly, and he's chatting with my wife, and I'm selling, used hammers or whatever. And he brings up, I hear in the, behind me, baseball cards. So of course, like all of us, my antenna goes sky high. I lean over, I introduce myself. Great guy, big sports fan. Says that he inherited this collection from his dad. And so I'm doing some calendar math in my head. I'm like, all right, I think this guy's maybe 10 years older than me. I'm 58. His dad, okay. So we're
Makes
probably
sense.
going back a few decades.
Yeah.
Comes back a few hours later with a T206, very well loved, as we call them, Ty Cobb and Cy Young. I'm like, okay, these are, it's a legit collection, not beautiful, but still.
He just brought those two cards.
Just brought the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made arrangements to get together later, and traded messages back and forth for a month or so. Finally made a date, and he said, "Hey, you got me motivated. I organized these into spreadsheets." I'm like, "Oh, cool." Emails me the spreadsheets. I open the spreadsheets and I look. I'm like, "Okay, this is legit." I'm seeing all kinds of great cards: T206, T205s, a few Ramleys. I mean, just really gorgeous things. And I'm realizing
None of them graded.
No, all raw. And so I'm very excited. And then I open up one spreadsheet and I see it didn't say Morehouse Baking. It said Sunlight Bread, 1916. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is. So I start, the Google machine and so on, and I can't find much about this. Then I reach out to Don Hontz, who you probably know up in Portland, Maine, and he's kind of my expert.
Yeah.
I know a lot, but Don knows more. Don's like, I don't know what those are. He said, let me reach out to his expert, which is Joe Tomasulo. So Joe texts me back and he said, yeah, that's a legit card. He said that Shoeless Joe card there has only been rumored to exist. In the public way, in grading, it's never been bought or sold. And I'm like, okay, wow. Yeah. So I immediately let the gentleman who has the set wanted to stay anonymous. He goes by John, so I'll call him John. So I immediately reached out to John. I said, sit down. You have something very special. Us hobby geeks will really kind of lose their minds over this. So he's excited about it. Super good guy. We become very good friends. So I'm excited to go see it at his place. And it completely blew my strategy. I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy the collection. And I'm like, okay, this is much bigger. So I'm getting ready. I'm excited. On Thursday, my day job, I'm a business guy. I put business deals together. So I reach out to him on Thursday, get together on Sunday. He goes, yeah, we're still good. I found a few more cards I forgot to tell you about. They were sitting in my office for years. I literally have the text of my phone. I won't bring it up. I took a screenshot of the text, and I look at his response, and I call my wife Cindy over, and I said, can you read this? Like, my hands are shaking. And he said something about the better of the two Babe Ruths. And that's when I said, you forgot that you have two Babe Ruth cards. So he had the two Babe Ruth cards that are now famous thanks to Brian and his team, sitting in his office for years, sitting in a little frame in his office for years. And so anyway, that was the start of a 6. That was in the summer, I think. The National was 2 weeks later, which was perfect timing. Gave me, as a collector, a great excuse to go to Cleveland. Went to Cleveland, and with one purpose, was to go to talk to. It was actually 3. I knew it was going to be REA. I was going to talk to Joe, of course, at Golden, and also talk to the folks at Heritage. And Brian was my first stop. And there was a young guy sitting at the front desk. We started chatting and immediately, talked about, and I brought 1 or 2 sample cards, not the Ruth, of course. And then I met Brian and completely hit it off. And not to pump your tires too much, Brian, but clearly knows the industry, was informative but not pushy. Like whatever you did.
Yeah, well,
man,
that's the way.
Yeah.
Brian, what was your reaction when the whole thing came to fruition and you saw the 2 Ruth cards? I mean, you've some great stuff has come over your desk. What was your reaction to these 2?
I was blown away. I mean, the National for me was kind of like the yard sale for Jeff. We had 2 booths at the National this year, and I was splitting my time between the 2 booths, and I just so happened to be at the booth when Jeff came up, and I was overhearing, and I was like, this sounds like it could be something, but obviously I want to train my guys to work
Sure.
the booth themselves. So as I worked my way into the conversation, I realized that it was something pretty significant, and I was actually familiar with Morehouse Baking. But I knew that there had never been a Ruth. And so I was cautiously optimistic, like, oh, do you have a Babe Ruth? Got 2 of them. And that's when I knew, that's a card that you don't make up. That's a card that's not faked. You have to have one to fake one. So I knew that it was good.
So wait a second now. You auctioned off 1 so far.
Yes, one was sold in auction 2-ish weeks ago, and the second will be auctioned in the spring.
Now, are they both the same grade? Or
No.
The second one's a little lesser card.
Yep, the first is a 3.5 that just recently sold, and the second is a 1. Brian, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the first one went for $812,000. I'm going to make a prediction here, Brian. I know the other one's a 1.5. I'll bet
1.
you it's a 1. I'll bet you that card comes close to the first one because of the scarcity of the card and the publicity that has gone with that card. JM?
No, I was just going to say, so what about those other cards that he had, Jeff? Are you going to do something with those as well?
Well, I have a few here.
I had 3. Apparently, I have 2 now. No, so part of this whole experience, which has been, like a lot of your viewers, I'm a 2% seller, 98% collector. Although that's changing a little bit now. I knew I wanted to keep at least one of these cards. I'm born and raised in Massachusetts. I grew up in Littleton, not far from Lawrence. Brian and I actually went to visit the Morehouse Baking Company building.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Not too far from where I grew up. Not too far. Mikey was, and by the way, Mike Lamaz was my old partner from my other show. Yep. He's a stock guy. We're going to invite Mike up later on just to kind of talk about. Mikey, just real quickly, I know they can't see you. It was near your house, though, where you grew up, right? That bakery?
No, it was actually on Mill Street.
Yep. In North Lawrence. Okay. I didn't know that.
Betsy Ross bread to some of your listeners.
Right, the old Betsy Ross. I know exactly where that was. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, so the second card is going into your spring auction, Brian?
Correct, in April.
Good. Brian, that's along with my programs. Why don't you Why don't you like kind of put my programs right around it? That would be nice, right?
We'll see what we can do.
All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. Brian's in the house. Jeff's in the house. You've got some cards here we're going to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I want to talk about the value of cards versus the stock, what's happening in the stock market, the future of the hobby, all that good stuff. And we're going to open it up, second segment, with a Gax blast from the past. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Curry, a two-time child cancer survivor, recipient, and advocate for Lucy's Love Bus. The mission of Lucy's Love Bus, 501c3 nonprofit, is to provide joy, comfort, and quality of life for the entire family of children with cancer. Since 2006, they have delivered love and comfort to over 3,000 children with cancer and their family members across New England. The dream of Lucy Grogan, an 11-year-old cancer patient, was to help kids with cancer who are suffering right now, before there is a cure, by offering free, integrative therapies like art, music, horseback riding, and many other activities. Unfortunately, Lucy passed away, but her dream lives on, and today Lucy's Love Bus is thriving.
I'm Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli. I hope that you'll consider supporting Lucy's Love Bus and all of those children who have been stricken by cancer. The Great American Collectibles Show is partnering with Lucy's Love Bus to help these kids. Let's continue Lucy's dream. Please go to lucyslovebus.org for more information.
Since 1996, Brian Dwyerto and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
This is Brian Dwyerto, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectables Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Okay, we are back, and we are chatting with Brian Dwyerto from REA and Jeff Gross sitting next to me. Before we get back into this discussion, though, it is time, and actually, I believe this is going to be our last. Chrissy, am I right? This is our last Gax Blast from the past.
I think it might be. Why would that be?
Yeah, it is. This is our last Gax Blast from the past because we're starting a new segment in January that's going to be really cool, and we're going to talk about it briefly. And so this is Gax Blast from the past, brought to us each week by our good friend Paul Borges and PB Collectables, your neighborhood card shop. Go to pbcollectables.com to find that special card or piece of memorabilia. This week we lost another one, another great player, Rocky Colavito. Close to my heart. I remember close to my father's heart because of his Italian background. Mike Lamazzo, who you're going to meet in a few minutes, very close to Mike's heart. A great ball player. So this is a little minute and a half segment on The Rock.
In 1951, after a tryout at Yankee Stadium, a 17-year-old Rocky Colavito signed a contract with the Cleveland Indians. Over the next 5 seasons, he was one of baseball's best outfielders and a fan favorite. In 1959, he led the American League in home runs. And then in the following offseason, one of the worst trades in baseball history sent him to the Detroit Tigers, a move that stunned Cleveland baseball fans. And years later, leading to the myth that the trade cursed the club and prevented them from another World Series because of it. 65 years later, Cleveland is still looking for that World Series. His name is still throughout the team's record book. He remains the only player in club history to hit 4 home runs in a single game. In 2006, Rocky went into the team's Hall of Fame. And in 2021, a statue of Colavito was unveiled in Little Italy.
There's no words to describe how I'm feeling right now. The love that these people have shown me is outstanding.
Yeah, he was a great player. Rocky.
Hey, Zap,
Yo.
a couple things. I don't know if you. I remember. I was too young to have seen him play, but I remember him from the old Home Run Derby show.
Yeah,
they used to show reruns of that, and he won that a couple times. But I don't know if you're friends on Facebook with. Obviously, we just lost Louis Tiant.
Right.
With his son Dan.
Oh yeah, Danny.
But I guess Rocky and Louis were best friends.
They were very close.
They were extremely close.
Actually,
friends,
there's a great picture. There's a great picture of Louis and Rocky fairly recently. Louis kissing him on the cheek, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I saw that. Dan
and by the
posted
way,
that.
some people may agree with me, some may disagree with me. I think Louis got screwed again. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know. Listen, the Hall of Fame is watered down, and if you look at some of the other pitchers that are in the Hall of Fame and compare their records with Louis, I think Louis should have been considered. But hey, it is what it is. All right, Jeff, I want to talk about you're a broker.
I am now, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, and if people have collections.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, thanks to this incredible story, there was a lot of media coverage. Hello, right here. And folks have reached out to me. And again, Brian and I connected in the summer, and I anticipated that this might happen and that there are collectors out there, either families that inherit collections, but they're not quite sure what to do. And we all know that there's some, I don't know, to bring them into card shows and card shops, it's a bit of a crapshoot whether or not you'll find someone that will do right by you.
Sure.
And so I'm interested in that. And I've been a collector my whole life. I love vintage cards, and I was able to help John with Brian. And so I started Jeff Gross Vintage Baseball, and I put a website together. And since the news of this broke, I'm getting new collections coming into me multiple times a week, and it's a blast.
That's great.
It's a blast. Just West Newbury, speaking of which, West Newbury, which is close to where I live, an 81-year-old gentleman had his childhood collection beautifully kept in sheets. He was in the Army. He put them in sheets in the mid-'60s. I didn't even know that they had sheets in the 1960s. I met an attorney recently who has a collection inherited from his dad and mom, 30s and 40s, Gaudi's, Babe Ruth, and just these beautiful cards.
All right, so
So I thought I'm glad you cleared that up because I thought you just do yard sales. And
No,
then you hope
I
that
don't want
somebody comes along and has something.
Only
for
when
it.
I'm looking, to
That's what I
help Brian
thought,
get the
so-
next, first ever card. I told my wife, because my day job is I'm a consultant in healthcare working with physicians, and she said, okay, don't forget, you still have to take care of the doctors. And I said, I know, but if we really need to drive something else, we'll just have another yard sale.
But if I wanted you to help me organize a yard sale where an old man would come with $1 million worth of cards, maybe you could help me with that.
I need to clarify, not an old man. Remember, Brian, I got in trouble for that. He is a little bit older than me, so he's definitely not an old man. I think the Globe story called him an old man, and I got in trouble with John, but thankfully he forgave me.
So I want to. Go ahead, John.
Can I ask all three of you guys a question? And not so much the gentleman you just talked about, Jeff, from West Newbury, who had them nicely preserved and put them in sheets back whenever that was in the 60s. But sometimes I'm confounded when we have these stories of people finding cards in a cigar box or they kept them in the attic. What the heck kind of materials were they using for these cards decades ago? And I know sometimes they're creased or folded; they're not all 9s or 10s, but how the hell these cards even stay preserved and stay intact?
Brian, you can answer that question.
Even if it's a 1 or a 2, when we're talking decades, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're not using anything more advanced than just printer paper,
crazy.
Commercial grade printing paper. But we see a lot of stuff that is preserved because it's just kept in dark and cool places.
Right.
So we've seen Cracker Jacks wrapped in tissue paper. We've seen Gaudis wrapped in newspaper. We've seen it all. But I mean, I think that the real key is just keeping it in a cool, dry place. And you can preserve things for a pretty long time in that manner.
I was talking to Rick Snyder about that, Brian. And at the time, he was pretty amazed that, those cards, the Lucky 7 find, those things were in a paper bag. But they were just at the bottom of a box of some sort.
My experience is 1,000th of what Brian's is, but on a recent level, what I'm finding is these are not active collectors, right? So they're not handling them. They're not bringing them out. They didn't throw them in the bicycle spokes. So I think it's partially luck that they put them in whatever materials they had them in tucked away safely, but they were not handled. So that's probably how they survived without having some of the typical love and wear and tear that our collections would have had.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah.
Quick question, Jeff. So if I have a collection and I bring it to you, what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the collection, and then you're going to go to the appropriate. You're not going to go to Brian Dwyer if you have, an Ike DeLock 1958, PSA 8.
Unless you want me to.
So my point is that depending on what the collection is, that's who you go to. If it's a lesser collection, you go to a smaller auction house.
So I've been very active selling on several Facebook vintage pages for quite a few years, and I've built a lot of relationships and hopefully that reputation as both a buyer and
so
seller.
You'll sell for the.
I often do sell. For them.
Gotcha.
And if I find a collection that is exceptionally rare, or I guess I call it worthy of auction, Brian gets my first call. Joe gets my second call.
I got you. No, and that's understandable. So you basically, and then what do? You charge them a commission.
Yep. Exactly.
That's fair enough.
And it's just it's that versus the option of what I see every day as a collector on the other side of the table, where folks walk around to these shows and they go up to someone and say, "Are you buying?" And the answer is, they can turn around quickly. The answer is, of course. But they're selling it with a much smaller percentage of yield.
Gotcha.
So so it works out better for both of us.
All right. So I mentioned that the GAC's Blast from the Past is now in the past. But we're going to be launching a new segment the second week of January that I think is pretty cool. We put some thought into it, and I have an individual who lives in San Francisco who is an AI freak. He does it for a living. It's pretty interesting stuff that he does. So we were having a martini, and I threw something out at him, and I asked him, I says, "Hey, this AI stuff, you can pretty much do anything with it." And he says, "Yeah, absolutely." depending on what you want. So here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be launching a segment, and it's going to be called the Great American Baseball Tournament, created by AI Danny. Danny is the baseball savant for the Great American Collectibles Show. Basically, what I asked him to do is I asked him to ask, with all the data that he had, who the 16 greatest baseball teams are of all time, and to from 1 to 16. And he sent me that information. And to be honest with you, I was shocked. And Joe Tomasulo was the only gentleman that I went over the list with him. And Joe says there's one team that is not in there that should be in there. And after researching it, he was right.
Yeah.
They had this team as 19 out of the 16. And it was the 1929 Philadelphia Athletics. Anyway, make a long story short, we're starting it, it's going to run for 15 weeks. We're going to start with the Sweet 16 and then go to the Elite Eight, Final Four, and the championship. And it also gives us a breakdown of, again, this is all fictitious, but it's kind of fun. They give us a breakdown of what happened in every game.
Oh, that's great.
Not inning by inning, but like the first inning, the fourth inning, and it talks about this guy hit a home run, this guy hit a single, this guy made an error. It's going to be a pretty cool concept. So we're going to run that every week. We're going to do a new segment, and we'll give you the results of, how number one did against number 16, how number 2 did against 15, and it's going to be some fun. So keep an eye on that. We're going to start that second week. Yes, John?
Well, no, I was going to say that's great because it'll spur debate. There always is.
That's the whole purpose of it is.
When you always do, make a group of things, always going to be a couple people saying this team should have been in there or not. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, Jeff.
I was just going to add, when the gentleman was on earlier about the Dizzy Dean, from a collector's point of view, one of the things I'm enjoying now is selling someone their first vintage pre-war baseball card.
That's
and
cool.
I've done that a few times.
Very cool.
And prepare yourself. If you ever buy from me, you need to have a little time because we're going to talk about that player. Because I'd like to, my pay it forward is to understand the background to Zach Wheat. Like more than just the card and flipping cards. And I'm not knocking modern cards. It's
Couldn't
totally
agree
fine.
with you more. When we wrote the T206 book, and Lou Blasi is here, our old producer, was very instrumental. I mean, that was the whole purpose of the book. It was the story behind the players.
Bring some depth to it.
Joe
The
Orlando,
stories are colorful and entertaining. And
yeah, Joe Orlando handled all of the technical stuff, the PSA stuff, the values of the card.
Right.
Lou and I, it was the story behind the players.
Yeah, right.
Which that was kind of fun, right? There was some boring guys, but it was all pretty fun.
The stories behind the teams, the Gas House Gang, and I just wanted to show the prop here. So Brian Dwyerto has a really good artistic eye, and if the Morehouse cards, the kids could redeem them here in Lawrence back in 1916. 50 cards for jump rope, and Brian had this fantastic vintage-looking jump rope that he used in the photo shoot. And then I said, "What are you going to do with that jump rope?" So he was nice enough to gift it to me. But again, it's the story of the cards, the colorful story of the players, the time, and then even the companies involved locally. Ruth as a Red Sox pitcher, Lawrence, Massachusetts, found in the Danvers area. So it's
very
just
cool stuff.
It just adds depth to it all.
It's great to have like you three guys now because you're three vintage guys. And I think, Zap, we've talked about this, how, we feel like the vintage market is coming, I wouldn't say coming back because it never went away, but you know what I mean? I think people who were fixated on modern might be coming back to vintage a little bit. So, I mean, all three, both you guys, Brian,
Brian,
Jeff,
listen,
what are your thoughts on the state of the vintage market?
Brian, you're
right
a
now?
vintage guy. I mean, are you seeing what John's talking about? Because I am. I'm seeing some of these modern and ultra-modern collectors, I don't know now because they've been burnt or whatever the reason is, but kind of expanding their collections, gravitating towards some vintage stuff. Are you seeing that?
Definitely. I mean, I've said it, I've probably said it on this show once or twice, but I've said it a lot. I don't collect today what I collected when I was 17 or even what I collected when I was 25. And I think that we've seen that people that came into the hobby in 2020, 2021, maybe focused on modern or focused on ultra modern or basketball. They're now exposed. They're consuming social media. They're consuming podcasts. They're going to shows and they're saying Mickey Mantle's kind of cool. Babe Ruth's kind of cool.
Right.
You do see a lot of people shifting, transitioning, even just diversifying. You can do both. You don't have to be just vintage or just modern.
I got to tell you something before we take a break. I'm going to be working with an influencer, and I know, Brian, you know him, who specializes in the modern and ultra modern market, but his knowledge of the vintage market is a little questionable.
Yeah.
And I don't know a hell of a lot about the modern and vintage market.
Same.
So we're going to be working with each other to kind of help
That's
each
great.
other. Yeah, that's what we're
great.
doing.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
So wait. Am I going to just gloss over this?
You're
out. Yeah. I mean, no. I don't care if I'm out. You've been trashing influences for like 4 years. Now you sold your soul because you're making some money.
Can I tell you
off
something?
it.
No, there is. I'll tell you what. The influencer that I'm working with is the guy I've been trashing. That's number one. And number two.
Well, I'm tuning in for that show.
Number two. There is no monetary for either one of us.
Okay.
He wants to.
That second part is a lie. But go ahead,
John. He wants to improve. He wants to improve his content. Like I think we need to improve our content because you don't know anything about the modern and ultra modern market, and I know very little. I mean, I know some, but
I'm all about the modern market.
Your version of the modern market are guys that played in the 70s.
That's not modern? All right.
No. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my old pal, Mike Lamazzo, from the Sicilian Corner. We were together for 24 years on the air. Mike's going to be joining us because Mike is a kind of an expert in the stock market. So I want to talk about the stock market versus this hobby and what's going on. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Curry, a two-time child cancer survivor, recipient, and advocate for Lucy's Love Bus. The mission of Lucy's Love Bus, 501c3 nonprofit, is to provide joy, comfort, and quality of life for the entire family of children with cancer. Since 2006, they have delivered love and comfort to over 3,000 children with cancer and their family members across New England. The dream of Lucy Grogan, an 11-year-old cancer patient, was to help kids with cancer who are suffering right now, before there is a cure, by offering free integrative therapies like art, music, horseback riding, and many other activities. Unfortunately, Lucy passed away, but her dream lives on, and today Lucy's Love Bus is thriving.
I'm Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli. I hope that you'll consider supporting Lucy's Love Bus and all of those children who have been stricken by cancer. The Great American Collectibles Show is partnering with Lucy's Love Bus to help these kids. Let's continue Lucy's dream. Please go to lucyslovebus.org for more information.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden Auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
Hey, I'm Mike Petroselli. If your company is looking for the best in marketing and promotional items, you'll hit a home run with Petroselli Marketing. With over 8,000 suppliers and 650,000 imprint-ready items, we can get your company the visibility it needs to get your maximum exposure. Whether it be office promotions, wearables, automotive, sports items, and everything in between, Petroselli Marketing can do it all. Our design staff will even work with you from concept to delivery and customize your products. At Petroselli Marketing Group, we will get your brand in front of your audience. Contact us at info@petrosellimkt.com or call us at 603-880-3202. That's Petroselli Marketing, where no dream is impossible.
So we asked the question, how does your company or organization do promotions? Imprinted products keeps your brand in front of your customers more than any other form of advertising. For the best on-time service and new ideas for your next project, give Petroselli Marketing Group a call at 603-880-3202 or email info@petrosellimkt.com.
You know, Mike Lamazzo, my old partner, who is like my father, not my brother.
Hey,
my father.
hey.
No, Mike's
I resemble that.
Mike's my like my brother, and I asked Mike to join us because Mike knows a little bit about the stock market. Is that fair? Fair enough?
Fair, yeah.
All right?
Fair.
Okay. Before we get into this, though, how about our friend Charlie Perino and the grand group at JRI Cards, JM?
Well, if you want to have an absolute blast at obtaining some great modern and vintage cards, you got to check out JRI Cards. Our paisan, Charlie, the Iron Ripper Perino, along with Money Marco, the Dollar Girls, and the JRI gang, give you the chance to participate in opening a graded, unopened, and sealed fresh wax or cello pack of your favorite sport or non-sport favorite. It's easy. You buy in, Charlie opens the pack, and you get a fresh card. It's that simple. As a matter of fact, if you pull that special jewel, the guys at JRI Cards will even have it graded for you on the house. Featured in the LA Times, ESPN, and USA Radio, JRI is the hottest card-pulling show on the internet. Charlie and his staff make it fun, entertaining, and enjoyable with his collection of hats and sound effects. And don't forget, JRI donates a part of their proceeds to various charities. That's JRI Cards. Check out their exclusive breaks and events that everyone is talking about. They're always digging up cardboard treasures. For a great hobby experience, go to jricards.com.
Charlie's going to be joining us next week. Rico and I, we're doing a special Christmas show. You know what we're going to talk about, Mike?
Pray tell.
Growing up Italian. Italian food.
Go figure.
That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Like stuff that I do on my radio show?
Pretty much.
The Cecilia Corner podcast, by the way. Thank you very much.
Yeah, give it a plug. Go ahead.
There you go.
Go ahead. No,
By the
go
way,
ahead. Give
can
it
I-
a plug.
No.
Can I just say hello to Father Mikey? I haven't seen you in a long time.
My son.
I'm due for a confession. I'll be calling you soon.
My son. How are you? You look fantastic, John.
We used to do a bit on the show that really got out of hand. And,
completely.
And Mike, it was called Father Mikey's Moment or whatever the hell we called it. And Mike used to actually started coming in with a collar.
Okay. I think I read about that on a police blog. Was that
probably
you guys?
did. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was pretty funny. Listen, the reason I asked Mike to come in, and Brian, I want to get you involved, obviously, in this conversation.
Hi, Brian.
Say hi to Mike.
Hi, brother.
The hobby with the economy, Brian. What are you seeing? Does the collectibles hobby go hand in hand with, for instance, let's use the election results or the direction that the economy is going in?
You're muted.
You're
Sorry
muted.
about that.
Okay.
I think it is natural that the hobby does follow what the overall economy is doing. I mean, it's natural. We've always observed that the hobby does very well when the markets are up. Obviously, everybody's got more money. We've also observed that the hobby does very well when the market is down because people are gravitating to something more tangible. They want to get their money out of the stock market. They want to have fun. If I'm going to lose money, I might as well have fun. So, what we're seeing right now, the election, certainly the uncertainty being resolved has made people happy and more comfortable that they can figure out what's going to happen over the next couple of years. And, the hobby's in a good spot, I think.
Mikey, based, taking what he's saying, what are you seeing on the other side as far as the economy? And just, again, I know that I don't want to hold your feet to the fire, but what does 25 look like for you?
I think with the new administration coming in, I think the relationships with other countries is going to improve tremendously.
What does that do for our economy?
Well, people are going to get more work, number one, and more jobs are going to come back to the United States because that's what the new administration is working on right now. They just did a deal with the Chinese, and it's huge, and if you need facilities, you need workers. So all hand in hand, it goes like unbelievable. I'm excited about what looks like it's going to happen, but you never know. And, the other thing is with the collectible market, you could probably answer this question. Interest rates, does it have any kind of a negativity at all in collectibles?
Yeah, I mean, I think when interest rates are high, people are a little bit more tight with their money. And we saw back in 2021 when the interest rates were really low, the hobby was ripping. I think people felt like they could borrow a little bit more. They had lower rates on their cards, So,
well, Brian, let me ask you this question because I know, Mike, you and I have talked about it. So when the economy is not going great and a particular stock A, B, and C drops, it goes down in value from $10 to $7, using that as an example. A lot of people, knowing the stock, paying attention to the stock, will buy the stock at that lower price.
If it's a value play.
Correct.
I mean, if you look at their assets, you look at what the earnings ratio is, and there's a few things that, just like when you're looking at cars.
Well, that's what I want to ask Brian. Brian, does that happen in this hobby where, I don't know, pick a card is worth X amount of dollars. The economy starts kind of crapping out a little bit. The value of the card drops. Does that happen often where it's a smart move to buy that card when it drops?
Yeah, I mean, there's always buying opportunities. I think you see a lot more of that ebbing and flowing in modern than you do in vintage. But certainly, I mean, T206 Cobbs, they went through a little bit of a price correction, and people were buying on the dip, and now they're back up to higher levels.
What are we looking at for modern cars? What years are we looking at? When you say modern, what does that encompass?
Well, Brian, you can answer this, but you answer it, Brian, because that's a gray area, really.
It is a gray area.
I was going to say, everybody's really got a different definition of modern. I mean, for me, modern is 1980 to the present, and then ultra modern would be like 2000, 2010 onward, probably. So, yeah, I mean, its individual mileage may vary, really.
Isn't this whole conversation, guys, you can all jump in, about the fact that, I mean, we talk about, and I think it's true, collecting comes from a passion, comes from a love of sports, comes from a love of the games. However, I mean, a lot of the discussion on this show is about what things are going for in an auction. And, Tom, we've had our friend Tom Ruggie on the show many times. It's an investment. It's part of your investment portfolio. We talk about Collectors Insurance, one of our sponsors. I mean, these high-end cards, vintage cards, have become an investment, like it or not, and I think that we have to treat it like that. You have to protect it. You want to make sure it's part of your portvolio and it's an asset, right, Mike?
Mikey, we've talked about that because I mentioned to you that my financial advisor is he's very good, and he's really taking the time, he and his two sons, to learn the market. And he
should.
And he's made some recommendations to me to make some of these cards part of my personal investment portfolio.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
There's a guy, he's doing well by his
clients. He's staying ahead of the curve.
I was just going to add from a collector's point of view, when I got into vintage 10 years ago, I made a conscious decision for myself as to why am I doing this.
Okay.
And for me, it was love of the game. It was everything that makes it a passion. And as we talked about, the background of the stories and the teams. Now, I don't want my cards to lose money, but if the only reason why I'm involved with cards is I wouldn't buy cards that I have in my collection and I really enjoy them. And so my advice to collectors, let's say that are getting into vintage for the first time, is if you want to get in from an investment standpoint, that's okay. If you want to get into it because you enjoy the game but you don't want to lose money, you make, like any other business decision, have a goal and a purpose and let that be your North Star to how you build your collection.
That's where you've operated.
Absolutely.
Right?
The only difference between collectibles and, say, a stock certificate.
Yeah.
You have no passion for it.
Right.
You're buying it for one reason.
That's a good point.
I want to increase my zurdis. I want to make more money.
That's Italian for money.
Money. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
He knew that. But anyway, that's the difference. You never want to fall in love with a stock.
That's a very good point.
Because that's going to burn your
Right.
That's serious.
Hey, can I ask an unrelated
we got
question?
about a minute and a half.
I just need 4 seconds. Zap, did you use that? Did you use that jump rope to train for track when you were at Austin Prep?
As a matter of fact, yes.
It's about 3 feet long. I'd be really impressed to see you jump.
Real quickly, let's talk about what's this, Brian? What's the value? I mean, these are $500,000 cards. But what would the value of this 1918 Morehouse Baking Grover Cleveland be worth? PSA 2. What's the value of this?
Based on the Hall of Fame sales from the last auction, it could be worth a couple grand easily.
Really? Mikey, you know what I do, and you made a good point. What I do, and before we end this, is I take my collection, and I use part of it as an investment, and part of it for the love of the game.
That's interesting.
So in other words, if I have $20,000 to spend, all right, I'll buy a piece that is going to go into my personal collection, right? And then I'll buy another piece and I'm going to flip. And the reason I flip it is because that generates the revenue for me to buy stuff that I want for my collection.
It's
That's
just
what I've
like,
always
it's
done.
just like closing a part of your position on a certain
Exactly.
stock.
Same
Because you're
thing.
raising money, you can do more things.
Exactly.
I understand that. But, what a beautiful gift collectibles, especially card memorabilia, would be for your grandchildren. I mean, if you passed it on, because they have the years.
Speaking
at
of
our age, like especially you, I mean, you're not going to be here. John, you know what I mean.
Are you freaking kidding me, Mallory?
That's great. I love it.
My grandson Johnny. Next week we're doing a special Christmas show. My grandson Johnny is 11 years old. He's going to be sitting in the middle because he's turned into a collector, but he's a modern and ultra modern collector.
Things he knows about.
Right, but next week we're going to convert him. We're going to convert him on the air. I like it. I'm telling you. All right. Jeff, thank you so much for coming, man.
Zap, it was
Mikey,
super fun.
Jeff,
Thank you.
It was a
And
pleasure.
by the
meeting
way,
you, my
I
friend.
am going to
Mike,
be on
appreciate it.
Sicilian Corner.
The Sicilian Corner, we're going to air Friday, and we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, WCAP 980.
All your different podcast platforms.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that you and I have been together in a couple of years.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Why am I in the middle? You
I
guys should be
haven't
sitting next to each
missed
other
you.
here.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't. I haven't missed
I know Louis has.
I haven't missed you.
Louis, have you missed me at all? Notice how quick that came out of Louis' mouth.
Chrissy, how much time we have?
We're done.
Minus 8 minutes.
-8. Arrivederci.
Yeah, you're minus 8 minutes at this point.
All right, guys.
Hey, guys,
Brian,
thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Good to see all
Brian,
you
have a
guys.
great holiday. Merry
guys.
Christmas to you and the birth of your wonderful baby. It'll be a special Christmas for you this year. For mine, it's going to be with my children. They'll bring me Grey Goose. That's all that counts.
That's all that counts. That's the bottom line there.
With that being said, happy collecting.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.